The Honda CR-V may not be a fully engaging car to drive, it may not be the flashiest looking, but something tells me that we just found our favorite vehicle of 2023. Hey everyone, Vince here from AutoIndustriya, and what I have for you is the 6th generation Honda CR-V in RS HEV trim, meaning hybrid electric vehicle. Yes, this is a hybrid, and Honda was one of the first Japanese automakers to offer hybrid technology in the Philippines next to Toyota. But the system they had before was something called IMA, or Integrated Motor Assist, kind of a mild hybrid with a sandwiched pancake motor inside, or at least in between the engine and the transmission. This one, totally different system, we will explain later. But it comes almost exactly 10 years after Honda first introduced the CR-Z here in the Philippine market. But first, the CR-V. This is the yardstick by which a lot of crossovers are measured. I mean, probably much more so than the Toyota RAV4, because Honda set the bar for a family crossover SUV since it came out in 1997. And 6 generations later, this is now what we have. It's proven to be a very good seller, at least throughout the years, in the Philippine market. They even produce it here at their plant, or well, now former plant, in Santa Rosa, Laguna. So what makes this different compared to the one before? Well, for one, the car itself is bigger. You'll see it when we go on the side view of this vehicle. It also looks strikingly different compared to the model it replaces. Again, it does have the Honda family look, but seems a bit more intricate now. I mean, you have this trim here. It's kind of similar to what you see in, like, say, Mazda, the way the trim goes into the headlights. You have the hexagonal grille going on there. It's also similar to a lot of other Honda models we've seen, but in this one, it actually does look good, particularly in this color scheme. It's got that lower bumper there, very aerodynamic. But if you look closer, you'll see some, well, on the black RS grille, by the way, the RS means not really rally sport anymore. It means more road sailing, or yeah, I think that's what they're calling it now. But yeah, the RS emblem there. You do have the Honda H emblem, but 2 things it serves. One, it indicates that it's a hybrid with the blue halo that you can see. And also, that's where the radar cruise control is housed, the sensor for it. So keep that in mind. There's no rectangular sensor underneath, which I think is a good thing. Avoids spoiling the actual look of the vehicle. But overall, let me know down below what your impressions are with the design of the Honda CR-V. Now, you can get an idea of the size of the CR-V. It's a lot bigger. And compared to, let's say, some of the older generations of CR-V, it just dwarfs all of them. Even when you compare it to a lot of competitor models, this is still a big vehicle. The reason is they also engineered it to be able to have a 3rd row. But this one does not have the 3rd row, which is why when we look at the cargo area, it's actually going to be very spacious. Now, this being an RS trim version, you get the black details. I mean, the black trim here. You also get the black 18-inch wheels with the Dunlop SP Sport Max tires, which are actually pretty good for handling overall. Black side mirrors. You do get a bit of chrome, which is kind of odd. Maybe they could have already, blacked that out and all that. One thing I did notice down here where the lower trim of the door, the clamshell door, meets up with the mud guard, there is a bit of a gap there. That's kind of, I mean, if you notice it, it's there, but still, no big deal. The door is clamshell style, meaning there's no side still that you step on really, so which is nice. Keeps dirt out of the interior of the vehicle. This door opens really, really wide, which is something really good. I mean, that's almost 90 degrees, which is a good thing if you want to get, let's say, if you want to help your grandparents out, or if you're loading into in a car seat, which it does have the ISOFIX anchors with the covers, which is good if you want to latch something on there. But still, like I said, there's a lot of space here in the back. The reason is, of course, they did have a version of this with a 7-seat, which is the one we showed you, the all-wheel drive version. Check out my review of it down below in the description. I had commented in the previous CR-V video that the back looks kind of plain. But in this one, you know what? In this color, it actually works better. Now, you do have the I guess Volvo style taillights here. I mean, a lot of people have been commenting on that. But CRV has been using this style for quite a while now. This being a hybrid, Honda did the blue halo thing on the vehicle as well. RS EHEV, CRV emblem there. Of course, the taillights has this thing very similar to the one in the Honda City, the way that looks. But the weird thing about the CRV, or at least the EHEV anyway, is that this chrome surround, it is functional with the actual tailpipe there, but on the other side, no, it's fully blocked. It's a fake one. Anyways, when we pop open the tailgate, it is a motorized tailgate, which is nice, and it's one of those walk away. When you walk away, it closes. But personally, I prefer to close it myself. In terms of space, this one does have a length of about 39 inches from there to there, and a width of about 41, like from here to here at the narrowest point, maybe a little bit less. Maximum width is about 53. The height here is almost 33 inches, which is really good. If we fold down the rear seats, it doesn't have any kind of latches that we can pull here, but if you fold down this rear seat, what you end up with is a space that goes up to around 64 inches, which is very respectable for a vehicle of this size. It does have that little bump there, and the reason for that is, well, you do have a lot of stuff going on there. You have the fuel tank, and you have the battery, and actually I'd like to show you that battery. So when you pop open this one, you notice there's no spare tire going on here. You do have a tire repair kit, like the fluid here, and then you have the compressor right here, but you can't pull this out. But what we can do is we can pop this open. There you go. And if we look really close without breaking this, I hope that I don't break it, you can see there the orange conduit it goes to the front, because that is the battery pack that is being charged up by the drivetrain of the vehicle. So keep that in mind. Now, in this one, for some reason, I'm not seeing a tonneau cover anywhere. I mean, in other markets, I did see that Honda does have a tonneau cover for this, but not in this particular vehicle anyway that I can see. Maybe they forgot it because this unit is really fresh off the boat. Now, let's check out the engine bay. At the heart of the Honda CR-V RS EHEV is a 2-liter hybrid drive system, which is front-wheel drive in orientation. This is not an all-wheel drive vehicle like the CR-V we reviewed before, the 1.5-liter turbo. This is only purely front-wheel drive, which again, something I find odd, because normally when you go up in terms of spec, you usually get the all-wheel drive kind of a standard in a lot of these vehicles, but not in this one. Now, the first thing you notice with the engine bay is the presence of the orange conduits. Come on closer. If you look, it's got the orange conduits there going towards the back. And every time you see orange in an engine bay, it usually means a high voltage line, and that's going to the battery. And you can tell that it goes to the back because when you look up there, well, you can see where the battery is actually positioned. Now, the engine powering this vehicle, this is a 2-liter naturally aspirated gasoline engine, so it's not a 1.5-liter turbo like in the other version we drove. But the key difference with this engine is when you come in closer, well, for one, with the actual cylinder head, if you notice, the piping, it doesn't have 4 going into 1 or any of the sort. It seems to already be 1 right from the cylinder head, which is something I haven't really noticed in a lot of other vehicles before. It's unusual. But what's important here is that this one does make 148 PS and 183 Newton meters of torque, which isn't that high. And the reason for that is the type of engine they're using. This is not a standard auto cycle engine that you would find in pretty much every vehicle out there. This is an Atkinson cycle engine, which is something far more common with the hybrid engines. It sacrifices ultimate power and torque by giving you better efficiency, better thermal efficiency overall. And that's a good match for the hybrid drive system. Now, with the hybrid drive system, this is where it gets really complicated. what Honda did, they went for a dual motor setup. And you can't really see it individually here because it's all housed in this unit right there under the actual intake piping. But what it has two motors. The first motor is your generator motor for the entire electrical system. The second motor is your traction motor, meaning the one actually driving the front wheels. Now it has just a little bit over 180 PS and 335 Newton meters of torque. That is something that is going to be key because when it comes to the power of this one, it's actually quite high when you compare it to a lot of, let's say, the Toyota hybrids. So Honda went for this setup to be able to give them a very unique kind of hybrid system, one that is switching. It's not similar to the one in the Toyota where it's hybrid synergy drive. This is a different approach. And to be honest with you, it's going to be hard to explain, but the benefit is going to be when it comes to the balance of fuel efficiency and the way it actually feels on the road and the way it handles a fully loaded cabin. Do you want me to explain more? Well, I really wouldn't want to because I'd rather show you how it drives. But first, let's go inside and check out what it offers. The interior of the CRV, I actually really like. I like the minimalist approach that Honda did without, minimalizing too much. I mean, you still do have the digital screen, but that kind of pops out from the dashboard like an iPad with a few buttons there. I mean, for volume, home, that kind of thing. I like the physical buttons for the dual zone climate control system. That actually makes a lot more sense. And the actual control, like the knob for the fan speed or the temperature on either side, I mean, it's individually controlled. Again, dual zone. The feel is very nice, very high quality. Fits in very well. I like the way they did the honeycomb there. I mean, we've seen this in the other Honda models before, like the Civic and, of course, the other CRV that we drove. And it just looks very neat, very different. It may be a bit difficult to clean. You'll have to get a vacuum cleaner to get into whatever is under there, but it's something to consider. Now, for the ergonomics. I mean, the first thing you really realize is the seat. Because these seats, I mean, it does look good with the red stitching and all that. It's leather, of course. But it does remind me of a seat like from back in the 90s, the Recaro Enjoy, with a solid headrest, not the net headrest that it would have for the surplus Isuzu Bighorns, that kind of thing. So this one is a very nice seat. And then the steering wheel, very conventional Honda. It's got the hexagonal horn button there. Controls on either side, more on this later. But the leather wrap is very nice, like also with the red baseball style stitching. Very good, very solid with paddle shifters, but they're not for shifting. More on that again later. The lever here, this is the thing that I like the most, the biggest improvement for me anyway, in terms of ergonomics for the CRV. In the previous generation, it had those buttons here that honestly I never really liked. This one, much more intuitive. It's basically a PRND and B for the engine braking mode of the hybrid system. Down below, right beside it, the drive mode selector. Push it up, you've got sport, and then normal, and then economy or fuel economy. Hill descent control, electronic parking brake, brake hold, two cup holders here, pocket here where the key is right now. Up here, you've got a big compartment, which is actually good. Like I can use it for my new, much longer wallet. I can put it right next to my phone very intuitively. And my phone right now is sitting on the wireless charging pad. It's not active right now because the door is open. But my phone fits there very, very well. The only thing though, you do have the wireless pad, you do have the USB-C and the USB-A, and then you have the 12-volt outlet there. The problem is the USB port to connect to the screen is the USB-A. The USB-C is purely for charging, which I do find kind of odd because, well, why not just use USB-C for the data port for the screen as well? That just kind of seems a bit odd to me. Now, onto the actual driving screen. It's actually one big screen and you can configure it in many ways. So first off, let's go out of this view. Let's see, there you go, instrument display settings. So you've got different gauge designs that you can choose from. Right now I'm using the round version. then which is the more traditional, tachometer, speedometer, and then you can go to the, where is that? You can go to the bar version, which changes it up, and as you can see, it looks different compared to the one before. Instead, you have the bars on either side, which is pretty cool. Now, you do have the fuel meter on the right side, traditional fuel meter. On the left side, you have the battery state of charge of the battery, basically, on the far left. So don't get those confused. The first time I saw it, it was kind of like, okay, wait, I have to get used to this first before I drive it. You do have your power meter right here. So in a typical hybrid, it goes up from 0 to 100% depending on your, your throttle pressure. It's not going to activate now while I step on it, but it goes up to 100, and then when you're actually engine braking, or at least regenerating the battery system, it will the needle there will move down, and that's what's different about a lot of these hybrid vehicles that we see now. On the right side, we have the speedometer, and also you can configure the display. You know what? Let me go back to the round. That's actually the one I prefer overall. So there are many kind of displays, and you can configure the left and the right, because you do have scroll click wheels here, independent of one another. So you can adjust the one on the left. So on the left, you have basically your phone, FM, AM, USB, your entertainment unit, Bluetooth, apps, which would be the Android Auto and the Apple CarPlay. So on and so forth. On the right, you have your driving displays. So once we get out there, you can see the door open right now. The power meter, more on that later. And then your fuel economy. I'll talk to you about fuel economy when we drive. And then navigation, driver attention, seatbelt state. That's odd though. It's not showing Barney in the back not wearing his seatbelt. Keep that in mind. And then the safety support, which is basically the Honda Safety Sense. Now, this comes with a lot of safety features built in because of Honda sensing. I mean, you do have your standard stuff, ABS, ABS, stability control, traction control, all that stuff. But what's different is the way they made sensing available across the range for the CRV. So you have things like the adaptive cruise control, traffic jam assist, low speed follow, lane keep right here when you press that. Adaptive cruise control is right here. That you set the distance of the vehicle ahead with this button here. And then you can see all of that once you actually play around with the features. But what I like about this one is the way they did this. I mean, already when you compare it to a lot of newer systems, this one, this actual audio unit is not particularly impressive in terms of clarity. But when it comes to the sound, it's pretty good, because this one does come with a Bose sound speaker system, which is really fantastic, by the way. And then you have phone, all that stuff. The multi-view camera, that gives you different views around the vehicle. So right now we have the front one with a wide view, so you can really butt up against a wall if you have to really get close to a wall, depending on the size of the parking slot. And then you have the ones on the flanks, on the side mirrors, gives you a view ahead. So if you're parking, if you're maneuvering into a spot, right now the door is open, so it's showing a bit weird, all that stuff. And one more thing I appreciate is the lane watch camera, something we've seen in a lot of Honda models. When you press this button, yeah, that's Arnell. Arnell, move over a little bit. There you go. you'll see a little bit of the door, so you can see like when you're signaling, you can see what if there's a motorcycle next to you or that kind of thing. It avoids the door prize for the motorcycle, all that stuff. Now, okay, Arnell, you can go back there. So this one does come with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Now, for Apple CarPlay, it is wireless, which is nice. The only thing that's not nice is I don't have an iPhone. So I have to use wired Android Auto, which kind of sucks because I feel a bit attacked for being, an Android user. But once you do it, I mean, typical stuff, there you go. Let's see. I mean, typical Android Auto, you can flip through all your, never mind, cancel. So all that stuff. It's pretty normal fare, and it all works very, very well. Some of the other features here, really nothing out of the ordinary until you look at the power flow. And the power flow meter, it shows you where the actual drive is coming from. Later when we're driving, I'll show you how this works. I think we got it on the camera anyway. But basically, engine, you have your battery over there in the back, like I showed you earlier. And then you have basically there's a cross here. It depends on which one is supplying. You'll see this similar kind of setup with the Toyota hybrids before. I think they still do have it, but this one is nice and clear and crisp. On the left, you have your fuel economy. Don't worry about this one right now because right now we're kind of static, so it doesn't really count. But the range, this one, when it was on a full tank, it was reading around 620 on the full tank. And I have no reason to doubt this because I've been driving this for now 5 days, and I've only consumed, from a full tank, I've only consumed about 1/4 of the tank, which is actually really good. But more on that later when we drive. Let's check out what's in the back. So the back seat of the CRV RS EHEV is a nice place to be. You get the same kind of very plush seating. You got the red stitching right there, contrast stitching, making it look very, very good. Seat back pockets, AC vents, 2 USB-C ports, center armrest here if nobody's sitting here with 2 cup holders. If somebody is sitting here, then they'd have to use the 3-point seat belt from the ceiling, which kind of feels odd. Not really a big fan of that. Power windows, pockets there, all that stuff. Not really much to talk about here apart from the ceiling, because this one does have a panoramic glass roof. As you can see, it stretches up to here. And it is nice, but the problem there is when you sit up, like, you can see my hair is almost touching the ceiling. That is kind of the drawback here. If you lean back, it'll be okay, but still, it's still a bit low. That is the compromise when it comes to a panoramic glass roof. It creates a little bit more bulk here in the back to accommodate the mechanism there. Still all well and good, and you do have these lights that are nicely touch sensitive. Still, let's go out and drive it because that's where most of the discussion of the CRV EHEV is going to revolve around. My time with the CRV has been quite enjoyable. Now, it's not particularly exciting, we're not really looking for that. But in the everyday things that we need a CRV to do, it does it very well. Ride comfort, fantastic. I mean, I just hopped off of the all-wheel drive version, the 1.5-liter turbo, and then now into the EHEV, and the ride is actually really good. In terms of the comfort, the amenities, everything, it's fantastic. I love the audio system. I do enjoy the AC of this one. It's very easy to control, and I appreciate the physical buttons there. It's very, very easy. And the new controls of, they removed that push button thing that's really annoying for the transmission. And overall, it's an improvement. And then you have this space that you have, the width inside the vehicle to really kind of, stretch out and relax. That is something we like. The only real thing I don't like about this car is the noise suppression. And we're not talking about road noise. I think it does a pretty good job of that. It's more of external noises. Vehicle exhaust, trucks, jeepneys, open pipe motorcycles. It just gets into the cabin a bit too much, to the point that, it's you kind of wish you have a bit more noise suppression in a vehicle a price as much as this. And that is something that's going to be key, because for the price you're paying, for $2.5 million, it should be a lot better than that when it comes to the noise suppression. The real meat of any conversation involving the EHEV system is really the system itself and how it compares to something like the Toyota hybrid drive system, or before they used to call it hybrid synergy drive, how it compares to that, because it is a different approach to hybrids. Like we said, there are many, many different styles of hybrids that manufacturers are coming up with, and they're doing it in that way because they want to tailor the system to fit their needs, their kind of brand. And with Honda, what they're doing is, they wanted to make it more interesting, I guess is the best way to put it. So in the Toyota system, they have something called a planetary gear system, and it feeds into a kind of belt pulley CVT kind of thing. It's one of those hard to explain things, but in essence, it combines the electric drive with the motor drive, and then together it feeds into one kind of pathway to the, well, the drive wheels. In this one, not really, because what you have is you have, well, there are two electric motors. One is for the generation and the other one is for the traction, but the engine can bypass all of that and go directly to the axles that are being driven. And that is actually the key here. At city driving, at like speeds like this, the electric motor, I can show you the power meter right now, and hopefully it's picked up on that camera. Whoop, not that one. The power flow there, right? At certain speeds, it's the actual battery pack or the electric drive system that works much better for fuel efficiency. So it cuts out the engine, just goes on the electric. I mean, if you do have charge, right? And then it'll just charge itself continuously depending on, you know, the situation, that kind of thing. And then you have the engine, which will charge the whole thing as you're driving. But the engine is better at certain things. It's better at when you're accelerating from a slower kind of speed up to more cruising speeds, or I guess gentle highway speeds would be the right term for it. And then when you're cruising at a certain speed, the electric system, once it's charged up, takes over. And then a little bit higher than that, it's the engine again that becomes more efficient. So Honda kind of figured out this kind of segmentation. So from this to here, EV. From this to here, the gasoline engine. From this to here, EV again. And from here. So it's a very bright mind, certainly did a lot of work trying to figure all of this out. And that's how they came up with the system. And I have to say, driving it around, it's pretty smooth. It's kind of hard to pick out when the engine, I mean, unless I look at the power meter, it's hard to pick out when and where the engine actually kicks in and when it cuts out, because the engine is pretty smooth. And so when it comes on while you're driving, it's okay. When it does come on when you're sitting at a standstill, then you can't feel it. But if you're driving along, it's all right. And the benefit, of course, is fuel economy. Now, in the city, compared to the hybrid drive of Toyota, I would say that the Toyota system would be a bit more efficient. Usually in the Toyota, in a similar size setup, we would probably get around maybe 19 to around 20 kilometers per liter. In this one, I was getting around 15 at an average speed of about 15 kilometers per hour. So 15.3 kilometers per liter at about a 15 kilometer per hour average speed, which is really good for something like this. But the system of Toyota is better. But where this actually gets better is when you're on the highway, because on the highway we're getting around 25 kilometers per liter, which is again impressive for a vehicle of this size. And given that when it comes to driving around, let's say with an electric motor, you do have the benefit of torque. And when you have the benefit of the torque, it kind of helps you resist the inefficiencies of a gasoline engine when it's loaded. Like for example, if you have passengers in the car, it's not the actual drop of the fuel economy is not going to be as much. I did have 4 people in the car the other day, and then did the whole reclocking of everything. In the city, average speed around 18. I was still doing around 13.1, which is again good for an SUV of this size. This is a bigger SUV now compared to before. One of the neat things about the CRV though is that, the hybrid anyway, is that the paddle shifters, the way you use them is completely different from any of the other ICE Hondas that you may have driven before, because this functions like a regenerative control system adjustment thing. So when you're driving and you want to engage a bit more regen, meaning the regenerative braking, you pull on the minus paddle, on the downshift paddle, and it will kind of engine brake for you, recapturing as much of the friction as it can. So when you pull the minus paddle, the downshift paddle, it'll show some arrows next to the D, next to the transmission indicator on your screen. And the more arrows, the more regeneration you will get. It does cut out after, like, once you do come to a stop, so it'll kind of reset. But to override it, you can just put it into the B setting on your gear lever or drive selector, and then you can just set it the way you want it. You want a little less aggressive on the energy regen, then it'll kind of preserve the speed a little bit more while recapturing a little bit. and then you can add more depending on the driving that you're doing. You also have the sport mode here. You also have econ and normal, but mostly I keep it in normal mode. I'm struggling to figure out where the sport comes into play, because again, this is trying to be an efficient vehicle, but you do feel that under sport mode, the response from the throttle is not super quick, but definitely quicker than normal. There are two things that really kind of strike me about the CRV, and the first is that there's a matter of identity that I think they need to figure out, because they have this package, this hybrid system packaged in an RS, which in the old days would probably mean like rally sport or something, but today kind of means road sailing. But it's still, it's still sporty-ish in the look, but in the drive maybe not so much. It's not exactly like one of those exciting crossovers that you would drive. I mean, for that you still want to look at, let's say, the Mazda CX-5, or if they do come up with a newer version of that, or the, let's say, Subaru Forester, that kind of thing, but maybe not in terms of the design. This one, I think they got the design very right. Well, maybe the back, depending on what your preference is. Now, when it comes to the identity, it's like maybe they could have done the hybrid system in something else, not such a sporty package. You don't need the kit for a hybrid system, but I get where they're coming from. They want to make it into a top spec variant, and the RS is usually that. And the other thing that I think Honda really needs to figure out and address is, oh my God, the inflation. Because if you look at the pricing of Honda models, you can really see the full effects of the inflation right now when it comes to imported models. And for that, let's go back to the warehouse so I can talk to you about where this sits in the price range of the crossover class. So now that brings us to the surprise with the CRV, and it's the price. Because this RS HEV retails for 2.59 million, almost 2.6. And that is quite pricey considering where the CRV was before. Now, over the years, we have been seeing that Honda's pricing has been going up and up and up and up. You can see the inflation really factoring in with the way the CRV is priced. And this one, of course, is no exception. Actually, a lot of other models, even the Honda Civic right now, like I think it's 1.7 million. It's like, wow, that's a lot of money for a Civic, and it's a lot of money for a CRV. But what really matters is whether it's worth it to you. Because for me, looking at it, I do like the way it drives. I do like the way the hybrid system works. I like what it offers, the comfort and everything. Well, except for the sound deadening, could do with a bit more on the doors and the insulation and all of that. But all things considered, I think they did a good job picking their flavor of hybrid system to offer that differentiates it from what Nissan is offering with e-Power or what Toyota is offering with their hybrids. I think this works for what Honda is trying to offer. They want something that's got a bit more power. They want something that's got nice dynamism going into it. I mean, even when you compare it to Mazda, it's actually driving very, very well. But how I would have done it, I would have probably not gone with the RS. Maybe go for a different kind of trim level for this one, but still offer the RS, the hybrid system, the EHEV system, at a lower price. Like maybe if it was around 2.2, 2.3 million, that would be just right. But again, let us know in the comments below what you think about how Honda is doing with the CRV, whether it be the regular versions or the EHEV. This is Vince of AutoIndustriya.com. Now let's drive it some more. I want to do a grocery run. Yeah, CRV driver na talaga, no?